We just learned a very uncomfortable truth about gaming in 2026, especially with the Nintendo Switch 2. You see, for the last 8 months, the gaming community has been pretty much unanimous about one thing, and that is that game key cards suck. We said they were anti-consumer, we said they were a downgrade from real physical games, and we said they were pretty much just kind of pointless. But something very strange just happened. Final Fantasy VII, a game key card, just released for the Switch 2, and it is sold out pretty much everywhere worldwide. And that creates a problem, because if gamers really hate this format, then why are people still buying it? And more importantly, if game key cards have no problem flying off the shelves, then why did the Switch 2 just have one of the worst first holiday seasons of pretty much any console? The truth is that there are two glaringly obvious reasons why, and pretty much nobody is talking about them. So today we're going to answer all of those questions and more, but first, what's going on, guys? Cheers. A lot of you guys said you missed Tiger in some of the recent videos, so I figured I would bring her on here and give her a couple of treats for being such a good girl. But you guys know the deal. You got to leave a like on the video if you want Tiger to keep getting treats, right? These smell so disgusting. It's actually awful. Oh my god, she's so cute. All right, let's jump right in here. The physical edition of Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade for Nintendo Switch 2 is almost sold out globally. The director has expressed his gratitude for the warm reception this release has received. This article was just published. They go on to say, as you've seen in our review of Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, it's a great game. It already was on PS4, PS5 and PC, but now it's gone multi-platform with versions for Nintendo Switch 2 and Xbox Series X and S. It's precisely the version for Nintendo's new console that's becoming difficult to find in physical format. The game's director, Naoki Hamaguchi, sorry if I mispronounced that, has posted a message on his Twitter account thanking fans around the world for their support of the game, as well as a reminder that future print runs of the title will not include the Magic the Gathering Final Fantasy card pack inside. Many people may think that third-party games don't sell well enough on Nintendo consoles, but the fact that this title is selling out globally in physical format and topping the most downloaded lists on the Nintendo eShop in several territories indicates that players on the big ends platforms are not turning their noses up at a good game. Do you already have it on Nintendo Switch 2? Now there's a lot to unpack here, folks, but first let's take a look at this tweet, which kind of is like what caused a lot of people to realize just how sold out this game actually is. You can see this tweet has almost 500,000 views already just after 2 days. Sold out at Target, sold out at GameStop, sold out at Best Buy, #1 bestseller on Amazon, and top of the eShop charts. Yeah, Nintendo's massive RPG audience showed up for peak. Knew this was going to be a huge deal once it came to Switch 2, since its widest appeal is here. And then of course we had the game director themselves quote tweet this and say, thanks to your support, the physical edition is slowly becoming hard to find worldwide. Thank you. Future print runs are not expected to include the Magic the Gathering card pack. If you want the physical edition, please consider getting the first print version with the cards while it's still available. So let's talk about this a little bit, okay? Because when we look back at this past holiday season, we already know that the PS5 in November outsold the Switch 1 and 2 combined, and data-driven estimates show that the Switch 2 came out in first place in December, but just barely, making holiday of 2025 for the Switch 2 one of the worst first holiday seasons of any gaming console's first holiday season. Look who's back, thinking I'm gonna give her more treats. You're just gonna stand right here while I'm recording, huh? And there's a lot of things that people point to when looking at the holiday performance and why the Switch 2 actually needed a price drop in the US in December amongst almost all of Nintendo's retail partners just to barely get ahead. But amongst those reasons, we see of course the price of the console. That's a big one. There's also the price of the games. People just don't want to spend $70 or $80 on these brand new games. There's also a lack of really good exclusives, right? We've got a couple of exclusives on the Switch 2, but nothing that's like a real system seller, right? We don't have that new Zelda, we don't have that new 3D Mario. And then of course there's the economy, which is a decent reason, but let's be real, if there's anything we learned from 2008, it's that people will still spend hundreds of dollars on consoles even in a bad economy, right? For those of you that don't know, maybe you're too young, the Great Recession started in December of 2007, and by 2008 a lot of people were already feeling it, and yet we still see that the Wii sold 2.15 million, the 360 sold 1.44 million, and even the PS3 managed 726,000 units sold, and it was $400 back then. And by the way, $400 in 2008 would be about $600 today. So so more expensive when it comes to purchasing power than the Switch 2 is right now. And that's, again, a bad economy. This is NPD data. This is literally Circana. Okay, so yes, the economy is something, but it's not, it doesn't paint the whole picture, right? I mean, just objectively, we have data from bad economies to prove people are willing to spend lots of money on consoles. So that was another big one. And then of course another reason was game key cards, right? A lot of people said like, hey, I'm not getting the Switch 2 because I don't support game key cards. I don't like the format. I don't like what it means for physical ownership, and the fact that it's simply just consumer unfriendly, right? Like, just straight up, it sucks to not actually own the things that you buy, right? And I think Nintendo fans are a little bit more sensitive to that reality than say PlayStation or Xbox fans, who have more or less just gone with the wind and just don't care about digital or whatever, right? I mean, even Steam, for example, people love Steam, it's digital only, right? So I think Nintendo was kind of like that last console where people really do feel some type of way about actually owning their physical games, right? So now when we look at Final Fantasy VII actually literally selling out physically around the world, you know, there's a lot we can say about that, right? You could point at the price. You know, if you take a look at the price here, you could see that it's only $40, right? And so if you compare this to $70 or $80 games, you might say, okay, well, it's selling out, of course, because it's cheaper. Like, literally, people don't mind the game key cards as long as it's a fair price. The other thing that you can look at it and say, well, like, literally, this is Final Fantasy VII, right? I mean, Final Fantasy VII is up there in terms of, you know, when you look at some of the best games, the most critically acclaimed games of all time, a lot of people look at Final Fantasy VII like they do Ocarina of Time. It's one of those just classic games that is just, everybody loves it. It's got a cult following. Like, that is, I mean, that's the caliber with which we're talking about here with Final Fantasy VII. And so when you look at a remake integrate, it's like, okay, you know, those fans are obviously going to come out in droves to buy this game and have the ability to play it mobile, right? And then on top of that, like the director said, they literally put these Magic the Gathering packs inside. So even though it's a digital game on the cartridge, it's a game key card, not actually physically there, you are still getting something physical with your purchase, right? The fact that it has that booster pack in there. And right now, trading card games are all the rage. People are literally robbing stores for Pokemon cards. Okay, Magic the Gathering's been around forever. It's always been worth something. I think there's a lot of things you can point to say, okay, yes, it is a game key card, but it's cheaper, and it's Final Fantasy VII, and it's got the Magic the Gathering pack, and all of that is true, right? I totally agree with you on all of that. But here's the thing, and this is really just the truth, okay? People have said that categorically game key cards are things that they will not buy, right? So if that is true, if people actually have that value or that principle, right, then you would say, okay, well, you don't need it on Switch 2 because you can play this game elsewhere, and the game's already been out for a while, and you can get the card somewhere else, right? And so really what this proves is that, yes, there's lots of reasons why somebody might buy this game for the Switch 2 physically, but what it also proves is that game key cards are not categorically something that people will not spend their money on, right? There's some threshold, there's some wiggle room. People might not buy Star Wars Outlaws or Madden or whatever the case might be, but they will buy certain games if they're good enough at the right price with the right things, and yada yada yada, right? So okay, so what we know here is that yes, there's some reasons why people are buying it, but categorically this does dismantle the argument that game key cards are the reason the Switch 2 had a poor holiday season, right? I mean, obviously we know now that there are some reasons, there are some games that will actually sell even as a game key card, so that must not be it, right? Whether it's because the Final Fantasy fans are diehards, whether there's just so many RPG players that have already been early adopters for the Switch 2, or whether it's the case that the casuals who have the Switch 2 and they don't really have much to play right now because the library is still small, they're looking at this and saying like, hey, you know, I never played Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate, now's my chance, and it's only $40, right? And so the casuals might actually be adopting this format because, as I said on the channel, and I said this months ago, I said this back probably in like June or July, I've gone on record saying that the average casual gamer doesn't care about game key cards. They really don't. I wish they did. You care about them, I care about them. I don't have any game key cards, you don't have any game key cards. We are on the same page here. I agree that they suck. I agree that it's awful, but the truth is that the casual players probably don't care. Like really, they're probably not reading the front cover. They're not reading this. Okay. They're really not reading this. They're just looking at the game and they're like, okay, that's it. They buy the game and they're used to day one patches. They're used to day one downloads. Like they don't even know that the game is not actually on the cartridge, right? So if we have to dispense with the idea that game key cards are some meaningful component of the Switch 2 having a poor holiday season, what actually was behind the Switch 2 having a poor holiday season, right? And like I know there's the price, the cost of the games and all this other stuff, and that's the obvious thing, right? Those are the obvious talking points that I've talked about here on the channel. Many other people have talked about. A lot of people have put it in the comments. You may have already commented it down below, which by the way, thank you. It does help with the channel a ton with that engagement. But there are two reasons that I don't see many people talking about at all that make the Switch 2, at least right now, a really tough sell for the average consumer, the person who walked into Walmart or Target or Best Buy this past holiday season and they looked at the Switch 2, they looked at the PS5, and a lot of them picked the PS5, right? A lot of them did, especially in November. Okay, why is the Switch 2 right now a tough sell for the average consumer? Is it because there's not a big system seller game? Yes, that's part of it, right? But let's touch on two components that a lot of people are not talking about. And in order to do this, we're going to take a look at, once again, a post from Matt Piscatello. This was posted 20 hours ago or so, and this is again data from Circana player engagement tracker, US top 10 titles by total weekly active users, not concurrent, week ending January 17th. Okay, now we're just looking at this sort of sliver of data, but really you can even look at the December 2025 monthly total, or you can go back throughout the year and look at all of the engagement tracker data that Matt has shared over on his socials. Okay, whichever one you pick, it doesn't really matter. And the reason for that is because if you look at the games, a lot of the games are all the same, right? No matter which data or what chart you look at, you're gonna see a lot of the same familiar faces, things like Fortnite, things like Minecraft. And this actually paints a super interesting picture that a lot of people are not talking about. Okay, let's take a look at this. All right, first of all, they break this down by console. So we have PlayStation, Xbox, and Steam, and there's a lot of overlap between PlayStation and Xbox. Let's just be real here. Okay, so let's dive in and take a look at the most recent data here. We can see number one is Fortnite. So when we look at live service games, Fortnite right now is king, at least on console. Arc Raiders is currently number one on Steam. I think that's because Fortnite's not on Steam, but either way, Fortnite right now is king of the console live service experience. But here's where things get interesting. Okay, next we have Call of Duty, then we've got Grand Theft Auto 5 Remastered. On Xbox we have Roblox. These two are actually flipped here between the two consoles, and coming in at number 6 we have Marvel Rivals. Okay, so if we pay close attention here, and you'll also see Arc Raiders on this list as well, but if you pay close attention you'll realize that out of the top 5 most popular live service games on the PlayStation and on the Xbox, 3 of those 5 games are not on the Switch 2. And if you expand that to the top 6 titles, at least for the PlayStation, you'll see that 4 of the top 6 titles are not on the Switch 2. And again, you look at the top 10 list, half of this list is not on the Switch 2. Okay, and this is a super important point when we think about the parents going into the store and what are they going to buy their kids. Okay, well, little Timmy keeps talking about how his friends are playing Call of Duty or Grand Theft Auto. They shouldn't be, but they are. You know it, I know it, everyone knows it. I played San Andreas when I was way too young to play San Andreas. Little Bobby's talking about his friends at school are playing Roblox, which they shouldn't, by the way. There's a lot of controversy around Roblox, but the fact of the matter is Roblox is extremely popular, and Marvel Rivals continues to be very, very popular. So if you're looking to buy a console for your kids and it doesn't have Roblox, it doesn't have Marvel Rivals, it doesn't have Arc Raiders, it doesn't have Call of Duty, it doesn't have Grand Theft Auto, like these are the biggest games that a lot of people play with their friends, right? So the only ones that overlap here are Fortnite, NBA, and Minecraft, really, right? I know we've got a couple of others like Madden and WWE, whatever, but like a majority of the massive live service games that people play with their friends are not on the Switch 2. And I feel like this is one of those things where it's like, yes, people buy Nintendo consoles for the first party exclusives, right? Historically, that's been the case, but actually, apparently that's not always going to be the case. I mean, straight up, this is a third party game. A lot of people are buying buying. And again, I think on average we're talking about Nintendo, so on average people are buying it for Nintendo stuff. But if you're only going to spend $450 or $500 on a console around, let's say, Christmas, for example, you've got the PS5 and you've got the Switch 2, and they're both pretty much in the same price bracket, and one of these consoles has all of the games that little Timmy wants to play with their friends, and the other console does not have 50 or 80% of those games. It's like, okay, well, I feel like as a parent the choice is abundantly clear, not only because a lot of those games are on that console, but also I feel like, and you guys can let me know if I'm wrong about this, but I feel like a lot of the games that I end up buying, like for my PS5 for example, I can wait for Black Friday or Cyber Monday or some other sale and they get pretty big discounts, right? And when you look at Nintendo games, yeah, they sometimes get little discounts here or there. You know, a 5-year-old Nintendo game will go from $60 to like 45, and that's like the big, oh my god, that's the crazy discount of the year, right? But even if we wanted to use a super loose data point here just to prove what I'm saying, go to price charting and just look at what is the average and median price of a PlayStation 5 game lately, right? Average price is about $22-23, and then you go to the Switch and your average price is about $27. Median is a little higher as well, around 23. So it's like, even if we just take only 2 seconds worth of research, on average you're going to be paying more for Switch games. And by the way, this is Switch 1, we're not even talking about Switch 2. So if the consoles are around similar prices and the games on the PS5 on average are a little bit cheaper, and the PS5 has all of these live service games that everyone plays with their friends, and the Switch only has Fortnite and Minecraft, then like that's kind of a no-brainer for any parent, right? But it actually goes even deeper than this, because there's something else that the Switch 2 does not have that the competition does have, and that is streaming services. This is like such a missed opportunity here that, again, a lot of people don't even think about when it comes to the Switch 2 unless you're a casual gamer. This user posted just a couple of days ago, the original Switch got YouTube, Hulu, Funimation, and Crunchyroll, but was still missing several notable streaming services like Netflix, Prime Video, HBO Max, and Disney Plus. And now that we have the Switch 2, the situation has gotten worse. No streaming services can be used on Switch 2. Hulu and Funimation have also been discontinued for Switch 1. What's the deal, Nintendo? Streaming services should be a staple on a portable gaming console. I just want to watch anime and true crime videos on my Switch 2, damn it. And like, look, if you're a hardcore gamer or a hardcore Nintendo fan, I know you're looking at this and you're thinking like, guys, this is really a nothing burger, this is really not a big deal. And that's where I have to say you're so wrong. It's actually insanely wrong to make that assumption. Yes, I know people watch stuff on their iPad or their smart TV or whatever, their Amazon Fire Stick or whatever the case might be. I know we've got a million ways to access these streaming services, okay? So not having it on the Switch 2 isn't that big of a deal, but I mean, if this is the only console that's going to be in little Timmy's room, then wouldn't it be convenient that the thing that's connected to the TV already has the streaming services he wants to use, right? I mean, like, the iPad kid meme is a meme for a reason. Kids love to watch YouTube, okay? And to have the Switch 2 be functionally a tablet in some ways, it's not really, but it's got a big enough touchscreen to be one, right? To not have YouTube on there is a big fumble. And the same thing applies if this is going to be the main console that you put in your living room. And this is why Nintendo is often not considered the main console. It's always going to be this secondary console because it's not as powerful and it's missing a lot of super obvious key features that everyone uses. Like me, for example, okay, I have a smart TV and I do not use the built-in smart TV apps because the user interface and the hardware in the TV is just garbage. It's so slow, it's laggy, it's annoying, right? So I actually have an Apple TV connected to my smart TV because it's way faster, it's got much better interface, I can type with my phone, and it's just better overall, right? And in the same way, I think a lot of people do that, whether it's with their PS5 or with their Amazon Fire Stick or whatever the case might be. The point is, you can't do that with the Switch 2. You can't download YouTube, you can't download Netflix. I know Hulu's gone because they were bought by Disney Plus, I get that, but Disney Plus isn't on there and neither is Amazon Prime Video. So all of these different streaming services are not available on the Switch 2, and it's kind of like an own goal, right? Like, it's something people aren't talking about because it seems like it's such an obvious thing. Like, it is just expected. This is just something that you expect on your modern consoles or tablets or portables or whatever, and it's something that is available on day one on the competition. You buy a PS5, you've got Netflix, you've got Amazon Prime Video, you've got Disney Plus, you've got all those things that you want to use built built right into the console that also has all of the live service games that little Timmy wants to play. I mean, look, even this guy is a moderator of the Family boards, and he is saying, genuinely speaking, it's shocking how Switch never got Netflix. Even for me, just need me some YouTube and I'm good to go, right? And I think a lot of people would agree with this. I mean, let's say you're getting on an airplane and you want to fly somewhere. Lots of flights that I've been on lately have onboard Wi-Fi. You pay like 20 bucks or whatever, or sometimes you get it for free, and you just get access to Wi-Fi and you can watch videos, movies, whatever the case might be, scroll on your favorite social media network. Wouldn't it be nice to not have to watch Netflix on your phone or not have to watch YouTube on your phone? You could just have your Switch 2 right there. You didn't have to bring your iPad with you too. You know what I mean? Like, there's lots of people where it actually would be pretty convenient to have YouTube or whatever on Switch 2, even though you've got other devices that can play it just fine. And when you combine that with the fact that it's also missing all these live service games, I think this is a really big component as to why a lot of normies, a lot of the casuals haven't upgraded yet. Yes, it's missing that system seller. Yes, most people buy it for the exclusives. Yes, it's expensive and the economy is not great right now. I get all of that, and all of that is arguably a much larger component of this, but I do think not enough people are talking about the elephant in the room. Where's Roblox? Where's YouTube? If you have kids, you know that those are like the two most used apps by any child from the ages of like 5 to 16. Like, that is such a massive market that is just not being served by the Switch 2. And then you and I are over here talking about like, oh, the game key cards are a big problem, and it's like, yeah, for us, right, for you and me, yeah, we hate game key cards, but the average parent has no idea what a game key card is, and those that are hardcore invested in this stuff, they're gonna buy it. They don't care. Final Fantasy VII is proof that there are some specific games that will still sell even on game key cards, which means categorically people are not avoiding them like the plague. They're just approaching them cautiously and looking at the value proposition and saying, okay, if it's not on the cartridge and it's 60 bucks and it's the full game on the disc for the PS5 and it's the same price, I'm gonna get the PS5 version, right? A lot of people make that decision, but with Final Fantasy VII, it came in at a good price point with a pack of magic cards inside, and the fan base is really looking to play this game portably. They're gonna buy it, right? And I think we're gonna see this more as the year goes on. When you have games that make sense to buy on the Switch 2 as a game key card, people are gonna do it, right? I think Pokemon Pokopia might actually be another one of those sleeper picks where it's like the pre-orders are abysmal for the game, but that doesn't mean that casuals won't just buy it in droves the moment it comes out and actually is on the market. Once that marketing pushes in full force and all the influencers are playing the game on their cozy little live streams on Twitch, who's to say that that game isn't going to sell like hotcakes even as a game key card, right? So I want you guys to be prepared for that. We absolutely could see tons of game key cards in 2026 flying off the shelves, even though everyone kind of agrees that they suck because we're in our gaming niche and the casuals just don't care. And hopefully next week when Nintendo releases their actual official data, we'll have a little bit of a better insight as to who's buying this thing and why and how much. Although unfortunately they're probably going to do the same thing they did last time, where they're just going to reveal the shipped units and then everyone's going to be like, oh my god, it sold 17 million, even though like objectively that's not going to be the case. I'm just going to call it now. Okay, I'm just gonna come out and just say it right now. You know it, I know it, everyone knows it. The Nintendo fans, they just read the headlines, right? That's why they look at this last holiday and they think that they had a really good holiday, like, oh my god, Switch 2 had such a good 2025 holiday, and it's like, you definitely didn't look at the numbers, because there's just no way to arrive at that conclusion unless all you looked at was the headlines and maybe one or two tweets from Matt Piscatella, which paint this thing in the best possible light because he works directly with Nintendo. Of course he's going to do that. I don't even blame him for that. But hopefully, and I know that this is real hopium, right? Like, I know I'm not going to get what I want, but hopefully Nintendo actually shares some real data that we can really kind of pick apart and understand a little bit better. But I know it's not going to happen. They did ship units for their last report on purpose. They're going to do that again for this one. They're going to keep that going because their stock price is not really in the greatest position right now. They're going to pull out all the stops. They're going to do everything they can do to get all those headlines, right? You're going to see it. It's going to happen again like clockwork. And you guys are going to wonder like, wow, how did Omniarch predict that, right? It's like, because they do this all the time. They did this even back on the original Switch. Like, if you go back and look at all the articles back then, they're like, oh, it's the fastest selling, it's the fastest, all like, okay, yeah. And like with the Switch, it's true. Like, it actually did end up being super good. But you can also look back at articles back then and see like the Xbox One was the fastest selling, it's the best holiday. It's like, oh my god, right? Like, it's so funny how like easy these headlines manipulate people's beliefs and kind of skews lose their reality to think like something is true when it's not, right? And so what we're going to see is these headlines, Switch 2 sold 17 million, and it's like, oh my god, it's so annoying. It's so annoying for those of us that actually look at the numbers. It's like, oh god, now we gotta deal with all the people that don't know what they're talking about, and all the Nintendo YouTubers that are just being intellectually dishonest. They know that that's not the entire truth. They know it's not the actual numbers, but it paints Nintendo in a good light, and if it gets them 10,000 views on a video, they're gonna go with it, right? So anyway, all that to say, there is a small chance that maybe we do get some real nice juicy data from Nintendo next week, but I'm not banking on it because they have literally no incentive to do that unless the Switch 2 actually did sell through to customers at a shockingly good rate. And if it did, that would be super impressive. So we'll have to wait and see. But guys, if you made it to the end of the video, consider dropping a thumbs up on it. It really helps out the channel a ton. And you might think you're subscribed because you've seen a ton of my videos, but you're actually not. Double check down below.